Hey everybody, Travis here at Silca. We are 2 weeks out from Unbound, and I've had the opportunity of doing a lot of these events, and I think the thing that most people in my position don't get to do is go to the wind tunnel and do some tire pressure optimization problems, and I wanted to bring that here. So, over the last year or so since I did Unbound last, I've come up with kind of 5 tips preparing for a big event. In this case, Unbound, how to prep your bike, how to prepare kind of mentally, the clothing, the drivetrain, and of course, tires. We'll save that one for last. So, thanks for joining, and let us know if you have any special tips in the comment section below. All right, so my first big takeaway I've had over the last year at Unbound, I DNF'd about 125 miles in, and really my legs were shot. I felt terrible, and mentally I was telling myself, there's no way I had another 75, 80 miles in my legs. And I think I've really come around to the conclusion that, like most of us, we're just trying to get to the finish. And you got to bite off smaller pieces. You know, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So rather than looking at it as I've got 80 more miles to go, there's no way, I think this year my approach and kind of how I've gone about the last couple events that I've done is I just need 1 more mile. I need 10 more minutes. I can absolutely ride 1 more mile. And if we do that enough, we get to the finish. So I think really my number one tip is just to bite off bite-sized pieces and make sure you get to the finish line. My number 2 tip, this last couple months ago, we went to the wind tunnel with Dylan Johnson, Drew Dillman, and Ben Delaney, all 3 much faster than me, really trying to help kind of optimize their setup, tell a few stories along the way. One big thing that we saw with Ben was the clothing choice. So tip number 2 is find the optimal fitting clothing, so something that's not flapping. Ben's original jersey that we had in the wind tunnel had a pretty good look to it, as far as how tight it was, and really looked kind of like a racer's kit. As soon as he started riding, getting the fan on him, we saw a little bit of flapping in the shoulders. And when he switched to another kit that was a little bit better fitting on him, less wrinkles, didn't have any flapping, it was like 10 to 15 watts of savings just by switching the jersey. So at Unbound this year, plug that into Best Bike Split, and you're probably looking at about 30 minutes just from wearing a little bit better fitting jersey. So tip number 2, optimize the clothing, add some Aero socks. That's definitely going to help out. My third tip that I've really kind of honed in over the last couple years is making sure that all of your spares and your SAG are dialed. So your nutrition at the SAG is huge. Making sure that whoever's helping you there knows exactly which bottles you're going to get where, which pack you're going to get, what gels you need, all of that kind of stuff. Make sure you communicate that ahead of time with them, and reduce that time there. Another big piece of that planning is all of the spares you might need. So on my setup, I have a top tube bag that's going to be mostly for easy access nutrition, but also a Dynaplug. With this North course in particular, I'm going to have plenty. So I'm going to have the Racer Pro. It's got 4 plugs in it. I've got 2 in the handlebar plug, or in the handlebar Dynaplug. And then the Matone has 2 Tubolitos in it. I'm actually going to bring a spare derailleur hanger, multi-tool, and an extra quick link, just to make sure that if I have any sort of mishap, I can at least get to the next aid station where I will have my full toolkit, basically any spare I can scrounge up around the house, and make sure that if my main goal is to finish, like most people's out there is, that it's not because I failed to bring, an extra chain or something like that to the aid station. So tip number 3 is make sure that all of your spares are dialed, your nutrition, and that you have it all ready to go in plenty of time, easy to find, so you're not running around the aid station trying to figure out where that last gel or where your extra plugs went. All right, my fourth tip to prepare for one of these big rides, big events, Unbound in particular, is to take care of your drivetrain. So we get tons and tons of questions. When you come by the expo and see us, we talk wax all day, every day at the expo. So we love those questions. One of the biggest things that I can advocate for is waxing your chain the night before. If you have the ability to bring a chain wax system, a crock pot, an instant pot, and can wax your chain the night before, that's going to give you at least 200 miles, assuming that we don't have another mud bath like we've had the last 2 years. That's where a lot of the complication comes in, right? What happens if it rains? If it rains, if it's super dusty, something like that, and you're getting a lot of dirt and grit into your drivetrain, no lubricant is going to last 15 hours out on course if you're subjecting it to that. So what I'm going to do, part of that SAG planning is having a bottle of Synergetic. You could also use Synergy. It's kind of the harsh conditions e-bike lubricant that we have. It's an oil-based lube. You drop it on and you're ready to go. Any of the wax-based stuff, the Drip Wax Super Secret, anything like that, it needs a drying time. So while it might be a better option for overall performance, it's not going to work without a few hours of waiting, and nobody wants to do that. So adding Synergetic to the SAG Stop, to your drop bag if you're using one of the neutral service companies there, that's really going to be the best option. And then when you get home, if you do need to use that Synergetic, just go ahead and do a full degrease on the drivetrain. Chain stripper's great for that. So tip number 4 is make sure that drivetrain is dialed. If you don't have the ability to bring a crock pot or don't want to, if you're flying, something like that, a bottle of Super Secret, give the chain a fresh coating the night before the race, as far away from the start time as possible, and give it as much time to dry as you can, and you'll be great. All right, tip number 5, the best for last, tires. The gravel races, if we're not talking about chain lube, we're talking about tires and tire pressure. I think the South course last year, I think, was a little easier to pick a tire for. There were a few rough sections, but really speed and mud clearance at the end of the day ended up being the really only 2 things to consider. This year, you're going to want to make sure that you have a little bit more of an optimal setup for puncture protection and rolling resistance. You know, going from one of those super fast Rene Hurst extra light tires to, something kind of more in the mid-range, maybe like a Pathfinder Pro, is probably worth about 45 minutes on the course. That being said, if you have to stop every 15 minutes to fix a flat, that's going to be a lot faster. So there is just kind of a happy medium. So right now I'm leaning towards the Pathfinder Pro. There's a couple other options. Really what I would love is to see a bunch of comments about what tires you're running, or maybe if there's something I haven't quite thought of yet on a tire option, leave that in the comments below, and we still have a little bit of time to go ahead and get some new tires for race day. The other big piece of tires, I guess 2 more pieces for the tires. Tire pressure is massive. We'll get it at the expo. This is definitely a category 4 gravel course. It's about as rough as it gets. So go ahead and plug that into the Silca tire pressure calculator, and you'll get a really good option to start running your tires at. The other piece is I'm definitely going to add extra sealant. So normally we say about 3 ounces, probably going to look closer to 4 to 5 ounces, basically as much as I can get into the tire. Any puncture that goes through, I want to make sure there's plenty of sealant. And do not show up to Unbound or to Emporia, to any event, without checking those sealant levels. So I'm always going to put fresh sealant in for a big race like that. At the very least, make sure it wasn't last August when you put sealant in last. So inevitably we'll see somebody that forgot to check their sealant levels, and they'll flat and have a bunch of dry sealant. We don't want to see that. Make sure you top up the sealant, check your tire pressure, and really select a tire that you're comfortable with and isn't the slowest tire out there, but also isn't an onion skin that's just going to puncture right away. So the 5th tip is optimize the tires. Leave some comments below. Let me know what tires you're running, or if there's maybe something I missed and I should run out and buy before we get to Emporia. thanks for jumping in here. I really like going to these events. Super excited to see everybody out. Come by the Silca booth, and I'll definitely be by different parts of the day. Come say hi, share your story, and any other questions you have, leave them in the comments, or come see us in Emporia. We'll see you there.